So good afternoon, everybody. So I'm the unfortunate one standing between you and lunch. So I hope to serve you some food for thought in the course of the next 20 minutes. I hope to get several roses here. So while we are booting up the presentation, I want to share this story of how I started on this innovation path, because I hear several people here talking about not having much scope in India, the politicians are not supporting, the government system is not there, right? And the education system has to change, so on and so forth. My story was quite accidental. When I was in school, I was 13 years old. During a physical training session, I almost passed out, breathless. And they rushed me to the hospital, and the doctors found a very complicated valve problem, mitral valve prolapse. And as you know, the way the system works in our country is that the doctors scare the hell out of you, and they want you to come every 6 months or 1 year to do a lot of tests and so on. So they say necessity is the mother of invention, but in my case, my mother was the necessity for invention, because she was very stressed. And long story short, I wanted to become a doctor in my life so that I could do something better about this. And again, various reasons in our country, it's very hard to be a doctor. So I became an unfortunate engineer. And I was very disappointed that I was an engineer until one day I met a very great man in our country, and I'll tell you who that person is later. And he told me these golden words in my life. He said, Arvind, if you're a doctor, you can reach out to thousands of patients. But if you're a doctor's doctor, solving their problems with technology, you can not only reach out to thousands of doctors, but through them, you can help millions of patients. So that words really changed my life. And I was 21, exactly 14 years back. And I got a job. I was from Guindy Engineering, by the way. So I got a job in third year. I was waiting for the right job. I did my electronics communication engineering, and I didn't want to take an IT job. So I was waiting for the campus interview. I got a very good company, the one that I really wanted. And I also had an admit from Berkeley. But unfortunately for me, that job didn't come through because they said they had a major contract canceled, so 6 months wait and so on. So I thought about it, yeah, I could have gone easily to an IT job and so on. But I took a different approach, because there was a time I had a lot of lectures in Guindy Engineering College about patenting and so on. I mean, those days, obviously, you don't know what a patent is, right? 2001. First time I saw the word patent was an MIT application form, which said, how many patents and publications, not the MIT Chromepad, MIT in Boston. How many patents and publications you have? I'm like, what is a patent, right? So anyway, filed a patent for this idea that I had, which is to actually detect heart conditions and so on. And I was 21 years old. Guess what? The Singapore government were looking for investment opportunities in India. They were looking for IP-based investments when most of the companies in India were IT-based companies. And as a college kid, I got $1 million funding from the Singapore government. Now, the reason I'm sharing this is because people think that they cannot innovate, they cannot file a patent, they cannot start a company and so on. I mean, the moment you say it's not possible, it's not going to be possible. Impossible itself says, I am possible, right? So when you have the confidence, you can do anything. And I'm not sounding boastful here, but as a 21-year-old, getting $1 million funding from a $90 billion fund in Singapore was something I consider a big achievement in my life, okay? But going back to this great man who shared that confidence and inspiration, and I'll tell you who that is at the end of my presentation. But to get started here, I want to share with you some of the things that we do. And believe me, this slide says specifically 80 Group, Sunnyvale, California, USA, and that's where I'm currently based out of. But that doesn't mean that I've moved out of India. I still carry an Indian passport, come here every quarter. And we have a lab here in India. And all the work I'm going to show you is done completely by Indians. Okay? Even though we position it from America, made in America, global technology, but all these are made by Indians. And we don't have a single PhD. None of our staff are permanently head damaged, right? So this is the first product we developed. It's called Viscope. It's a visual stethoscope, first of its kind in the whole world. It's a very simple device, okay? I mean, you can imagine it's like a robo. It can tell whether your girlfriend has a heart or not. or if you're going to an investor, whether the investor really has a heart or not, right? But beyond that, I mean, of course, it doesn't have legs and arms to crawl and go and do something, but it can detect something called as a valve problem, the same valve problem that I suffered from when I was a child. And it's a very simple device. I can show you right now in a couple of minutes how to use this device. Perhaps the best way to explain this device is actually show the device. And if one of you would like to even volunteer, I can actually do a quick heart checkup. Maybe I'm going to call my best friend from college, Pushkin. I'm meeting him after 14 years. We were classmates in Gindi. I was so happy to see him. He's in Intel. So let's see if he has an intent inside. Okay. So you have a good heart, right? Okay. So I'm going to come this side. So this is what the device looks like. On one end, it's a stethoscope, much better stethoscope, 30 times better sound. On the other side, we have developed all the intelligence. You've got a screen, so you can see what you hear, and you can also see what you don't hear. Because often the frequencies of heart sounds are below 40 hertz. It's very hard to hear them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check his heart, okay, and then I'm going to detect it within 10 seconds and find out if he has any heart problem or not. So what's the number here? 108, right? If there is an emergency. Okay. So can you all see the screen here? So I'm going to request him to remain silent for 10 seconds. Okay. You watch Tamil movies? You know what this reaction means? No, you're okay. He's got a good heart. It says no murmurs. Okay. He has got no murmurs. And if you see the waveforms, it's too hard to actually show you. Actually, let me show you in the next screen. So in his case, he has a very clean waveform. Unlike in the one that is shown here, there are patches on the screen. Right? You see the top waveform, there are two waveforms. The one below is the heart sound, the lub-dub sounds. The one on the top is actually the patches. The moment you see a patch, that means there is a murmur, and that indicates a block or a leakage in the valve or a hole in the heart. Okay? Now, why this is useful? 10 years back, the government of India published a statistic saying that children in India have an incidence of 0.1% of heart murmurs. But we did a study recently, by far one of the largest studies ever done in India. We screened 30,000 children in state of Kerala. This was an NRHM funded study, and we showed 7 times increase in the incidence of murmurs. And just by training 10 junior public healthcare nurses with these devices over a 6-month period, they screened 30,000 children. And you won't believe it, some of these school children went home and told their parents that somebody came with this device and it showed a murmur and so on, and the parents got anxious. They rushed them to Sri Chitra Tirunal Hospital in Trivandrum, and they verified with echo that they had a murmur, they had a problem. And with the Rotary Club funding, they actually did a surgery and saved the lives of these children. So look at the social impact. I mean, it could start with a very small streptococcal bacteria with the throat infection, and when that goes into mitral valve, if it is cured immediately with penicillin, 12 rupees per month, that's all it costs. Whereas if it affects your valve, it costs almost 2 lakhs to repair or replace the valve. So that is the implication of this kind of a device. And it really helps in screening, and I mean, it's becoming a lost art. Even 10 years of experienced doctors cannot auscultate with a stethoscope. So every time they require an echo, which is like $10,000, this one costs $500. Okay? And this is completely designed, developed, and manufactured in India. It's FDA approved. And guess what? While we are very proud to say this, but what happens? Some of our governments, I don't want to name them, but they did a lot of studies. They also wanted to place an order, but we got an order on the day before the election. This was a few years back. And of course, the order didn't go through, and the elections happened, the government changed, and still we have not got a single order from our country yet. But after this, one day we had a talk like this. We had a talk, and the person who headed the talk was former HOD of Madras Medical College. And she said this statement. She was talking very positive about our device and so on. Suddenly she says, Arvind is a great inventor, but he's a very, very poor businessman. I'm like, what? Why is she saying that? And she said, if I were him, I would have taken this device to California and launched the device from there, not from Chennai. And what she said was 100% right. Because today, when we take this device to conferences like Medica and so on, we get a lot of Middle East distributors. They say, can you brand it as made in USA and not as made in India? Because when it is branded as made in USA, we can price it more. The moment it says made in USA, it's like the quality is very good. Look at Apple. All these Apple products are manufactured in China or Mexico. But how cleverly they say, designed for Apple Inc., Palo Alto, right? Or Cupertino, whatever it is. So that's the branding. But does that mean, is that a problem? It is not. Because we developed this product in India. We still manufacture it in Mysore. But we take it to the US, repackage it, and ship it. So our target is not only India alone. We make it in India, but we take it global, right? So that is our target. So this device can help in a lot of applications like home screening and so on. We are developing a new device which will actually sit at home, and thanks to all the smartphone revolution, everybody has a smartphone. So this device can actually transmit these sounds through Bluetooth to a smartphone, and then it can detect your heart attacks at the time when it is happening. And those golden hours, very critical. And at that time, if you can transmit the waveforms and the doctor can view it on the other side, that can be truly life-saving. So we're developing that over a cloud, over a smartphone, and so on. So that's the first technology. The second technology, while I was doing clinical studies for this device in a hospital in Singapore, this doctor came about with some problems storing his medical images. And he wanted to compress these images. Now, I had some background with compression, and not a very good experience, because when I was in college, my professor asked me to implement a JPEG compression algorithm as part of the digital image processing course. And I looked at the JPEG formula. It was way too complex, all the wavelet, the cosine transforms and so on, FFT structures. So my question was, can't there be something simpler than JPEG? So I came up with this hypothesis that in an image, if let's say this is the image, there are a lot of repeating pixels. If you can encode these repeating pixels or correlated values, and then come up with an intelligent transformation to actually achieve compression, my hypothesis was this would be better than JPEG. So I gave this hypothesis to my professor. Unfortunately for me, his specialization was on JPEG. So he didn't like my hypothesis, so he gave me a D grade for that, which literally degraded my chance to get a gold medal. Of course, I didn't care, because after second year, the best decision I've ever made in my life was not to focus on CGPA. I wanted to do more projects, right? So after 4 years, when the same cardiologist asked me for help on compression, I came up with this same algorithm where the idea was very simple: encode all the repeating pixels. I won't go into technical details because otherwise I'll get more roses here. Idea is to code the repeating pixels in a bit plane and just store the ones that are not repeating alone. Okay? With that, you can do horizontal, vertical, and then when you combine the two, very less bits or bytes are required. So this is called as ABO, adaptive binary optimization. But a lot of people have started expanding it as a better option than JPEG and MPEG. But guess what? When we applied this for the same images that the cardiologist gave, after 4 years, it gave 300% improvement over JPEG. Okay? So based on that, we have developed a solution for streaming these medical images. And what we've done is two scenarios. One is you can just compress and transmit from point A to point B. Or the second scenario is like Google Earth, where the lower resolution images appear first and the higher resolution start populating. Same way you can stream the images. And because of the streaming, the network load is very light compared to other technologies that occupy the entire load. So the point I'm trying to make is, it is a very simple technology, right? Of course, not a professor from Stanford or MIT had thought about it. We thought about it and we implemented it, patented it, most important. Okay, we patented it, and then we did an implementation, because we tried earlier to go license this compression algorithm to Philips, GE, and Siemens. They were very interested in the performance, but for them to change their hardware systems or thousands of lines of code was almost impossible. So what they said was, can you come up with a whole end-to-end solution? So we had to build the end-to-end solution and then take it to market. So this is one of the solutions with the whole viewer. Even though our specialization was on compression, but when you want to really start taking a technology to the market, you have to find what the customer wants and package the whole thing in the way that the form that the customer wants. You can't just give a compression algorithm to a doctor asking him to use. He doesn't find any use. Whereas this whole viewer, if you give it to him, he really likes it. I'll tell you the problem we are solving today. In UK, more than 300 hospitals are using this. Why? Because before we went there, they were sending these images on DVD-ROMs by FedEx. It used to take them 2 weeks to get a report back. Whereas we gave them an online solution, within 2 hours, they get the report back because of the compression. And we charge them exactly what is half of the cost of the FedEx. So there is a commercial model out there. There is a real need out there. So building a technology is one thing, but finding a real commercial need and application for that is more important. The same way, we actually developed another technology for video transmission within hospitals. Some of you might have heard of this famous hospital in India called Sai Baba Hospital, Sri Satya Sai Baba Hospital in Bangalore and Puttaparthi. It's amazing work that they do. They have everything in the hospital except one thing, which is the billing system. Everything you do is absolutely free. It's a completely charitable hospital. So when we went there, we found the need. There are 400 people who come from Assam, West Bengal, you name it, all the states. And they just come for an ultrasound echo, and they want to screen their heart and change their valve and various different things. So what happens is the technician does the recording, and then later in the afternoon, the cardiologist comes and reviews it, and he looks at the notes, and wherever he's not satisfied, he calls the patient again, does a repeat echo. And then the poor patient has to wait the whole day. So instead, what we developed was a system where you can compress and archive these videos, and from anywhere in the hospital, you can actually access live, lossless videos. So because of that, the doctor, cardiologist sitting anywhere in the hospital, he can view the videos, right? And the patient doesn't need to wait, and it really helps in sharing the information. And he can even upload this video over the net to somebody else from sitting in the US and reporting these videos. So that really helps with the workflow of the hospital, and we save 90% of repeat echoes. That means 90% more patients can be screened. So that really is a great saving for the hospital as well as for the patient. Now, moving away from medical, this is one of the products we developed, and again, it is actually a very revolutionary product because today a lot of people use thumb drives, flash drives, right? And often we complain about not having enough capacity in the flash drives. So we developed this technology not only for image compression, for data compression, for even JPEG images or MPEG images, we can actually compress it further. So with that, any file you drag and drop into the flash drive gets compressed up to 7 times. So imagine a 1 gigabyte flash drive gets expanded up to 7 gigabytes. So this product is already out in the market with a partner in Singapore called Trek. They've sold thousands of units of this product already. And now we are working with a company in California who's actually making a flash-based 8 terabytes hard drive. So imagine the implications, 8 times 7, it's almost close to 50 terabytes. And that's going to truly revolutionize the hardware storage industry, right? So a small idea, a small technology can get manifested in multiple different ways. Moving on, I should really share this story with you, the US Air Force. There is a center called Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio, in the US. So they do all the work for the US Air Force, all the images going from, God knows, Afghanistan, Iraq, it all gets transmitted there, and they do the decision on real-time basis and analyze the data and whom to target, which terrorists to shoot, and all that stuff. So a few years back, they had this problem where they were spending more than $1,000 every second for transmitting these satellite imagery data called SAR, synthetic aperture radar data. And they gave away grants to 5 different companies, 2 million grants, just for them to go and explore on this area and improve the compression performance. So I went there, hearing about this because we have done a lot of work in compression. I went there, but I learned 2 things. One is, we were not a US company at that point, so we couldn't get the grant. And worse still, they wouldn't even let me inside. Because I was not a US citizen, I didn't have security clearance. I went all the way to Dayton, Ohio, and they wouldn't let me inside. So that was a very, very sad day in my life. So, but we didn't kind of give up on that. I told these people, can we at least have a few non-classified images and give us 3 months time, and we will show you what we can do. So they, after great reluctance, finally they gave us a few terabyte hard disks of non-classified images. So I brought to Chennai, and our own people who have done BE engineering, computer science, MSc computer science, and those kind of people, not PhDs, right? So they took up these images and worked for 3 months, and guess what? We gave them 18 times compression compared to what they were using was 4 times compression. And today, after that, when I went there subsequently, 20 folks from NSA, NGA, as well as US Air Force, they came out to a private meeting room to attend our briefing. Thank you. So the point is, today we have got a joint paper published with the US Air Force. Okay? The US Air Force never publishes a paper joint with any company. And we've got a paper published, joint paper with the US Air Force. And that goes to show the power of Indian technology. I mean, our own minds, our own best people. But moving forward, some of the things that we're developing in the video space are more interesting. I won't go into too much details, but what we've done is, look at the image on the left and the right. Maybe you can't see it very well with the projector here. but the one on the right is half the file size, but you can actually see better clarity of the videos. So when we went to YouTube, they challenged us. The chief engineer, he's also an Arvind Jain, he challenged me, can you take an existing YouTube video and compress it and show it side by side and show the improvements? It's exactly what we did. So the one on the right comes from YouTube directly, YouTube server, and look at how much time it has taken. 5.89 megabytes, 98 seconds. Whereas the same video we have taken and optimized, 2.82 megabytes, half the file size, and it has taken only 4 seconds. And look at the video clarity of the images, right? The BBC logo, the grass, and the spots on the cheetah, and so on. I mean, this is like people, hundreds and thousands of people are working on H.264 standards worldwide. In Stanford's, MIT's, all the companies, Intel, every company, Cisco, every company has a video codec division. But if you have self-belief, even a small team sitting here in India can actually do something better, right? So that is the real key. So I was going to talk to you about the great man who changed my life. So more recently, when I showed him the hard device, of course, Punraj sir was there, and Mr. Srinivasan sir was also there, and he was giving us a lot of suggestions on how to improve the device. He actually encouraged us to add ECG to the device, which we have done right now. Okay, and then I asked him, sir, I want your guidance on what should I do next. We've got these two companies and so on. And he gave me the advice. Now it's time for you to go and work with younger inventors and entrepreneurs and guide them. So that's exactly what we're doing right now. In the US, we've launched this initiative called Science Initiative. It's not science with SC, because that SC is all selfish creativity. Here, it's about SAIENC. It stands for Societal Advancement by Innovation, Entrepreneurship, Nurturing, Collaboration, and Execution. So what that means is a true advanced technology is only a technology that helps in the advancement of the society. And I'll show you how. And we are actually coming up with a means, a platform. People asked earlier, is there a platform? Is there a way they can take innovations further? Is there funding? Right? We are setting that up. So I'll show you the first one we did, a non-invasive anemia and diabetes detector. An 18-year-old school kid came up with this idea. So the idea is, without blood pricking, you can actually detect diabetes and anemia. And she already showed a proof of concept. She won the Synopsys Award in the US. The second one, a 17-year-old school kid came up with this idea of a smart hearing aid. So basically what it does, it takes your smartphone and does your hearing test with the smartphone, and then plots your hearing response and does an inverse. And then every sound that comes through your microphone, it corrects automatically and plays it back. So the advantage is that you don't have to carry a separate dabba, and more importantly, that separate dabba is not personalized for you. Unlike your spectacles, which is personalized for you, that dabba is not personalized. This one can be adaptive smart hearing aid. And somebody doesn't need to have the embarrassment of carrying a hearing aid. It'll look like as if they're listening to some music on iPhone or Samsung, right? So this guy, 17-year-old school kid, implemented it on Android platform. And he won the award from Synopsys and from US Army. And now we are spinning off that company called Smart Hear. This year, by December, we're going to launch that app. So you'll see it on Samsung as well as iPhone store and so on. The third one is early screening of cancer. Now this girl who is working in this project, she is 21 years old, she just joined Berkeley. She lost her father with cancer. He was 42 years old, 44 actually. And he was very healthy, but he started following this Weight Watchers program. They used to send all these plastic boxes with all the food packaged in it. And he used to need to microwave it and eat it. And when he did that, he developed cancer. And within 1.5 years, he died. So this girl took it as a mission to work on cancer, early detection of cancer, because most patients, when they're detected with cancer, it is at a terminal stage. So we are coming up with an algorithm or a methodology where we're going to look at oxygen consumption principles, because cancerous cells have a higher metabolism and they consume more oxygen. And if we can detect that non-invasively, you can detect cancer at an early stage. We don't know if this is going to work or not. Several people have told us if this works, it's a Nobel Prize idea. But we don't want a Nobel Prize, we want a Nobel Prize. If we can save someone's life early enough, even just by giving them a warning that you are prone to cancer. So separate from this, a group of school children are working on this project called cancelcancer.org. Okay? It's basically about awareness creation. There is a classic study, 2 plants, one being fed regular water, the other being fed water which is microwaved every day. And guess what happens? The one that is microwaved, thank you. So like this, it dies, right? So the use of microwave is known to produce cancer. In Russia, microwave is completely banned, whereas in America, every day we use microwaves. And in India, unfortunately now, everybody is starting to use microwaves. Whereas we all know that the conventional way of cooking is better, but still we want to adopt the Western culture, so we go for that. So that's one other project. And then we're setting up a lab. We already have a lab here in Chennai. So one of the points we want to kind of really highlight here is that Indian companies should look for emulating such technology companies in the US. I'll give you an example. 2 weeks back, there was a company called GoPro, which went public in the stock exchange at $2 billion. And their share price was at $30. It has now almost become $55. So over like matter of within 1 or 2 weeks, they've become double the valuation, $4 billion. Whereas how long has it taken an Infosys or a TCS or a CTS to go to 1 billion and plus? Tens of years, right? Overnight things could change with the technology business. So the whole idea is getting a technology and commercializing it and taking it into market. That is the key. And once you do that, this GoPro is a very simple idea. It's just a camera you can wear on your helmet, and then you can stream all the videos to your friends. I mean, look at WhatsApp. What is up with this WhatsApp thing? $19 billion they got sold, right? I mean, is it a great technology? Is it a rocket science? No. How many of you here use WhatsApp? Can you please raise your hands? That tells you the answer, right? So it's about adoption. And we want to keep it simple. Technology means we don't want to make it very, very complicated. It need not be like state-of-the-art technology. I'll give you an example. RAIF has actually got this kid who has developed this technology which will actually look at detecting your blink, the eye blink, and then based on that, if somebody is like sleeping while driving, they can wake up that patient. What a great idea. When she first told me, when Sukriti first told me, I was like thinking, oh my God, how can a school kid think about putting a camera and detecting the image and then doing image processing to do eyelid closure and so on. Then she told me, no, it is not camera, it is a photodiode. What a cool idea, right? Just a photodiode. If the eyes are open, it will produce more light. If the eyes is closed, it will stop the light, right? That's a simple invention. And they are thinking about integrating it with all the spectacles, whereas I'll give you another idea. Sir is here, talk to them with the car manufacturer, put that device in front of the driver, and if that detects, in the US when you drive, there is like, when you go off the road, there is this vibrating thing, right, that wakes you up. Same way, if that can detect and then vibrate your seat, finished. That's it. Simple ways to commercialize this technology, right? What a simple, neat idea. If we can take that to market. I mean, always when you have an idea, think of how to take it to market. That is the key. I mean, forget the governments, forget the policy, forget the education system. Look at what you can do. You can keep blaming yourself, and when you have become 60 years old, you'll still keep blaming yourself. There's no point in blaming others. You have to do what is good for you. God helps those who help themselves, right? So of course, we all want to build a lot of IT technologies, IT products, and so on. Even Microsoft themselves make a lot of mistakes, right? It's not easy to build an IT product. Just by saying that it is a software, and no hardware involved, I can easily do it, doesn't mean that. Microsoft has got more people in their quality management and documentation than the actual developers itself. Now tell me something, can Indian people do that? Our engineers are great, but I'm sorry to say that in terms of documentation, in terms of process, it's pathetic. I know from our own team, right? It's very bad because we are very good in just doing it. We always should remember, we never plan to fail. We only fail to plan, right? If we plan well, definitely it's going to succeed. And that planning not only is involved in terms of technology, we also have to look at the markets. Whenever you do an innovation, what markets, what problem it is solving, right? How can that market be big and so on. And this is the technology wave. We can decide to either ride on it or we will be left out. I'll give you 3 examples. There are 3 ideas. I have a few patents, almost close to 50 patents now, but 3 patents I failed to commercialize. And if I had commercialized those 3 patents, I would not be standing here, trust me. One patent was a voice recognition technology. I used to call it VTEL, voice tell, on a phone with a genie. It can recognize your voice, give the commands, and do it on your phone. This we developed 10 years back. And what is the technology today? Thanks. The second technology was an accelerometer. Okay? With an accelerometer, you can control a game, like a motorbike video game. It can go up or down or accelerate or this. And what is the technology today? V, the V technology. And the third one was this idea of every credit card, right? We want to talk about all security and so on. But very simple. We have all the credit card number and the information about the user, everything on the credit card itself. If you give your credit card to a petrol bunk, this guy can copy down all these details and go order something online. It's like shutting down all the windows but leaving your door open, right? So the simple idea was to actually put a chip in there and then encrypt all the data and protect the data. And that is available today, right? The chip on card. So 3 technologies we missed out and we lost big time on that. But the point is, any idea, even if it's a simple idea, it's worth patenting. Does anyone know here how much does it cost to file a patent in India? A provisional patent? Who said 75,000? 25,000. No, it's not that much. It's less than 1,000 rupees. It's less than 1,000 rupees. It's almost 800 when I used to file it. 1,000, okay. So all it takes is just a write-up about your invention. No need claims, no need diagrams, nothing. But just file a patent. We talk about agriculture, right? This patenting is also like an agriculture. It's like you're getting the patta for the land. That's it. And then you have to sow seed. I mean, you're sowing a seed. You have to pour water and cultivate this idea and take it further into a product and so on. So we all see this World Cup football, right? How many of you see World Cup football here? Has anyone felt that India is not part of this World Cup?
I got used to it.
You got used to it? I mean, we all see the World Cup with so much interest. Imagine if India was playing in this World Cup. How we will feel, right? And is there a way for India to get into the football World Cup? Yes, there is one way. If we host the World Cup here, right? We'll definitely be part of the World Cup. And that is the same way for technology too. All our people go to Bay Area in America. Why? Because the ecosystem is there. And if we want innovations to come in India, we should have the ecosystem here. If we host that ecosystem here, I mean, we talk about incubators. What is an incubator here? I'm sorry to say this, even in this campus, there is an incubator. But how many of you know that the large companies have taken up this incubator space? It's almost becoming like a real estate. Incubator is the most abused word. That is not what innovators want. Innovators want nurturing, mentoring, right? It's not just by giving real estate. In fact, in the modern day, you don't need a real estate space. Everything is virtual, right? All you need is an ecosystem. If you have an idea, how to patent it, how to get funding. I mean, the funding agencies are so pathetic here. They want not only companies with revenues, they want companies with profits. I mean, if we have profits, why should we come and talk to you? And the banks, they don't give you a loan. And somebody recently asked me, for this company, what are your assets? I said, intellectual property. But what about assets? What is the real estate you have? I said, 0. Okay, intellectual property. And they don't understand the value. Intellectual property is only a piece of paper. You don't value that. If you have real estate, land, house, can you pledge that and take money or put a deposit, he will give you money. That's the way banks react. And the VCs are becoming vulture capitalists, right? They want revenues and profits, and then they come and participate in you. So we have to change this. Of course, if you go outside India, there is funding. But believe me, there are a lot of efforts going on to bring that ecosystem into India also, right? And for that, the government has to work together with the private organizations, and the universities have to work together. There are various things we can do, but provided we set ourselves to doing that. And the problem is, we all want IT companies. Somebody said very rightly, when you join an IT company in Infosys, you will get a very good girl for marriage, right? Because that's what the father-in-laws want. Who will give a job to a guy who says, I'm an entrepreneur, right? I'm running my own business. I'm the CEO of my own business. And what business is it? It's a startup. No, sorry. Right? So that's the problem we have. I recently gave a talk at the Venture Studio in Ahmedabad University. So they have this beautiful platform, Venture Studio, where they can incubate ideas, give them funding, and so on. But the problem is these guys are not paid salaries. How long can they go without salaries? For 2 years, then they get desperate. Right? If there is a system where, we used to host this event called Innovator in Guindy Engineering College. The idea is to get top ideas from the school and the colleges, and then choose the best 3 ones, and the first prize, we give them 1 lakh rupees, and then tell these people to come and develop this project. So one of these years, this guy came up with this idea of a gloves, okay, with multiple sensors in it. So what that gloves does is basically the special needs language, the deaf and dumb language, it picks up that and then gives an output to your phone or to your computer. What a great idea. Much needed in the society, right? So if that idea can be commercialized, that would be very, very wonderful product. But we offered this 1 lakh price and then offered him this option for coming and incubating his idea. He said, no, I've got a job in Infosys. Right? So that's the problem we have. Because the mentality is such that we want to get a job. And then first thing, we want to get a house. The second thing, we want to get married, then children. And then by the time 60 years old, you retire. If that is the way we are, trust me, after 20 years, we'll still be the same way. And guess what? The bad news is Vietnam and Philippines are offering outsourcing at a much lower cost. Bangalore is no longer the preferred destination anymore. And Chennai is very soon becoming the same way. We want to call ourselves independent from the foreign exchange issues. Sir mentioned about the oil exports and so on. But trust me, today, our inward revenue is primarily dependent on IT. And that is not being independent, that is being out-dependent. When we will be independent? When we are dependent on innovation. When we have our own products, and with that products, if we export, that will make us truly independent. And for that, we have to develop this ecosystem and nurture it. So my conclusion is, yes, we have got a great ecosystem with information technology today. It's a catalyst. We can leverage on that. But on top of that, we have to build innovative technologies. We have to build our own products and combine it with our software strengths, and that will be an ideal technology, truly an Indian technology for the whole world. So I want to conclude by saying, sharing this quote, the greatest danger for most of us is not that our aim is too high and we miss it, but that it is too low and we reach it. So next time when you go for your placement interviews for a software company, think twice, right? And if you have your own idea, if you want to patent it, contact me through RAIF. We'll support you. Thank you so much. Any questions?
We'll have only 2 questions.
Sorry,
good afternoon, sir. Actually, coming to the topic of the cardiac murmur stethoscope, it's possible to detect the waveform which is less than 40 hertz. So, main problem day to day the human is facing is stress. So, is it possible to design a machine which can control the human brain waves? That's my question, sir. So that technology has developed. So, human waves have been categorized into 5 categories such as alpha, beta. So, if a patient is suffering from stress, his brain waves go beyond the gamma rays and his behavior is unpredictable. So, it is possible to design a machine so that his state could be controlled when he goes beyond the gamma ray region.
Definitely, there is a technology available. Gamma ray scanning was developed by the US Army. And well, I'll give you a great modern technology. Okay, you can work on that. It's called yoga and meditation. We often tend to, undermine our own ancient Indian technologies. And trust me, those are really the core technologies. I mean, why are Americans and Germans trying to patent yogasanas and neem trees and turmeric and basmati rice and so on? Because they see value in that. People have done research. Go do this research work. I'll give you this project. Look for EEG waveforms and see how these EEG waveforms get affected when you do Gayatri Mantra. And then you come back and talk to me. Don't say it is Gayatri Mantra. Say it is Gaga Mantra. Then it will get commercialized, right? Inside you put Gayatri Mantra, but outside you call it Gaga Mantra. I mean, quite honestly, see, the modern science doesn't have the tools to measure our ancient philosophy. That doesn't mean that they are not true. For example, I have met a doctor in Delhi who, by checking my pulse, can tell me exactly what disease I have. When I see that, I find this whole heart device almost irrelevant. He can narrow down whether you have a heart disease or so on. But the question is whether is it because of a spiritual power that he has, or is there an algorithm he puts in his mind, and can we computerize that? Right? It is definitely possible with various instrumentation techniques, various modern DSP techniques. It is definitely possible, but somebody has to go and explore on this, work on this. And when you work on this, initially you'll have a lot of challenges, but eventually you'll find some solutions. And then when you have the solutions, then approach it carefully, whether you want to patent it or whether you want to publish it. There are 2 different paths. One is the academic path, other one is the commercialization path. Right? In the academic path, the output is an IEEE paper. The commercialist path, you want to form a company or license this technology, sell it, make money. And making money is not a bad thing. With money, you can do a lot of good things in life. You can help a lot of people. You can fund other ideas. So you should have that vision. Stop blaming government, stop blaming policy, stop blaming education systems. Think of what you can do. Right? as Madam said earlier, the change that you can make is most important.
Just wanted a correction since you made a public statement about the incubator at IIT.
Okay.
I'm a professor who's been one of the people with the incubation policy. I can assure you it's not real estate. We are going for a research park with about 2 million square feet, of which 30% is incubation space. The other is R&D space. So you must be very clear about what we are doing.
Okay. Wonderful. That's great to know. Thank you. So thank you so much once again for this opportunity, and really congratulate RAIF and Chris and Sukriti for this wonderful initiative they are doing. And this is really like the kind of ecosystem that we need to build. It's a lot of mind sharing that is really going to ignite a lot of spirits to come on this path of innovation. Thanks once again. Yeah.